My name is Asia Sampson, and today on Baptism Overland, we are completing part 2 of our Jeep Cargo Organization System Overhaul. Hey guys, welcome back. So if you've been following along with this build, then you'll know that in part 1 we built the platform system for the back area, and that platform system will be basically what this whole system will be built off of. Just a nice flat area. I think it turned out really great. I actually had a chance to test it out a little bit over the last week and just kind of putting stuff on top of it, and I just love the fact that I just now have a flat surface in which to put everything on. So now we get to the fun part, which is building out the storage organization system that's going to be back there, and I'll show you what I have planned for that. Now, over here on this table are all the items that I have just kind of strewn around in the back of the Jeep that I need to find a way to organize. And the funny thing is, that's not even the half of it. I also have tools in those A-pillar bags that are in the back, and that's not even including any of my overlanding stuff that I like to bring. Now, over the last month or so, I have been going through all my gear and kind of paring things down and not bringing things that I really don't need. After having some experience, I'm realizing that some things were just not even needed. So I'm starting to get rid of a lot of stuff. But even after paring it all down, it's still a lot. And I need to find a way to just organize them all and get them in their own location. Now, the goal is to get all the stuff into the storage systems that I'm going to build, and then also get rid of one of the A-pillar bags. I don't want to get rid of both because I like the functionality of one of the A-pillar bags of having tools at the ready, but I just don't need two, and it's just taking up so much space back there. Also, the one that's on the driver's side, that A-pillar bag is actually getting in the way also of the plug that I use to plug my fridge into. So I need to get rid of that somehow, keep one, and then all the items that are in that A-pillar bag on the driver's side, move it over into this new storage system. So let me show you my plan. All right, so what's the plan? Well, let me show you the rough sketch I drew up to show you what I'm thinking about doing. Okay, it's more than the rough sketch. Anyhow, the way this is going to work is basically I have two boxes that I'm building, and they're going to be pushed up against each other to make one big box. Now, the box on the right is basically the same as the box I've had before, where I have an exposed Pelican case mounted inside the cubby of it. It's held there by a magnet. It has worked fine for me for years, and the magnet never came out. It never came flopping out of the cubby. So I'm going to stick with that system because I do like having the exposed Pelican case, because that houses a lot of my emergency roadside stuff, and I need quick access to it whenever I get into a jam. So I want to have this out there. Before I had two, and now I don't need that second one. I'm just going to have my emergency case in there, and that's how it's going to be mounted. Behind that is going to be a cubby where I'm going to be putting all of my tool rolls, my tool bags, and all the other tools that I have. I did consider putting all the tools in the drawer system that's on the left side, because that way I can just pull the drawer out and I have access to my tools when I need them. The problem is, my tools are pretty heavy, and although I am getting slides that are rated for over 100 pounds, because I use my tools a lot and I'm going to be sliding this in and out a ton to get to my tools, I just don't want to start to add wear and tear to the moving parts, like to the slides or to the wood that the slides are mounted to. So I kind of want to just keep it in here, because inside that cubby there won't be any kind of moving parts that will wear and tear over time, so it'll just sit nice in there. That being said, on this side then, where the drawers are going to be, I'm going to go ahead and put all my overlanding gear. And that way too, maybe when I open this drawer, there'll be a flat surface that can open up as well. But that flat surface will just give me basically a makeshift table when we're camping or overlanding to do our cooking, make coffee, or whatever it is that we need to do. This will just slide out. If I'm feeling ambitious, I might go ahead and do a second slide down here for a cutting board. That way this will pull out, and then from there a cutting board will pull out. So I'll just have this long table that will kind of come out of the system the way you've seen in other overlanding vehicles. So I'm just going to do that on the left side. Now, the difference between what I had before and what I have now is, if you'll notice, this is going to be a lot longer than what I had before. The way I had this set up before is I had the two Pelican cases. This was much shorter, and the reason I made it shorter was because I wanted room in front of the box for me to store stuff. But as the years went on, I started to find out that that was such a pain in the butt because I couldn't put anything bigger in there because I only had such a limited space in front of the box, and then I had limited space on top of the box. So it was basically like a step, and there was not much I could store by doing that. So now I'm going to make it a little bit longer, where the back of this is going to rest against the back of the seat, and I'm going to extend this as far as I can possibly go without it getting in the way of the gate opening and closing. That way, when you open the cargo area of the Jeep, you now have one big flat surface in which I can mount whatever I need to. I can store all my luggage, I can store boxes, and what I might even do is go ahead and put some anchor points along the sides here. That way, whenever I want to put stuff up there, I can strap it down on top of the box. So basically, this is the system. This is how it's going to go. I like this kind of an organization because it gives me all the room back there to store all the gear that I have. Today though, all I'm going to do is build out the right side of the system. After this build, we'll go ahead and build a drawer system, which I can already tell might be a little bit more complicated as I've never done drawers before. But we'll learn, we'll figure it out. So for now, let's build this side. And then when we're done with that, in the next video, I'll build this half and then we'll put them together in the Jeep and it'll look really awesome. Okay, really quick, there is the old storage system that I had in the Jeep. I tore it apart and broke it down. Kind of sad to see that hard work just be torn down like that, but I'm going to try to salvage as much of this wood as I can and reuse some of it so that I'm not needing to buy more wood and wasting wood. So I'm going to try to reuse some of this, and what I'll just do is fill in some of the holes with putty, and then once we spray truck liner on it, it won't really even be noticeable. So I'm not going to use all of it, just basically the parts that are still pretty salvageable. All right, if you remember from the plans, we're going to build the right side of the system first, which has this in the front and then a cubby in the back for whatever stuff I want to store back there. So the first thing I want to do is get this measured out so that I know exactly how wide to make this and how tall to make it so that the case will be flush as best as I possibly can and not take up too much room. Then I'm going to go over into the Jeep and then just do a final check on the overall length of this thing so that I'll know exactly what I'm building out. All right, so I have the structural pieces cut out, and don't forget that the sides and the back is going to be screwed down into the platform that we built last week. So just to show you how it's going to look like, I got one like this, one on this side here. Looks like sizing is good there. And then I've got my back piece here. So I have not worked out the top yet because I just want to make sure that this is straight, and that's basically your box right there. Now what I'm going to also do is right over here where I'm going to be dividing the Pelican case with the rest of the box, I'm going to cut out some notches on here so I can just slide the partition through and it'll just hold it in much better rather than just trying to put a piece of wood here and screwing it in from the sides. Just go ahead and cut out notches. It's 6 inches deep based on my measurements, so I'm going to go over back to the table saw and just raise up about 1/4 of an inch or so on the blade, and then that's how I'm going to cut these notches out, and then we'll make it thick enough to fit one of these in the back. All right, so the box is pretty much done. As you can see, I used an old piece from the old box from before, and you also notice that it's a lot shorter here than it is up here. And the reason why I did that is because this box fits this Pelican case really tightly. So by having this little groove here, when I lift the box up, I can just grab it from here and pull it over. If this was flush, it would be hard to try to get my fingers in there to try to get this thing out, but having this space just allows me to get my fingers in there and pull this box out. As you can see, it's also magnet here, and that just sticks on there perfectly. Now I just got to do is measure the top, make sure that it fits really well, and then I can go ahead and add hinges, do a test fit, and if everything looks good, I just got to sand, and we are pretty much done. Alright guys, so the box is done. I went ahead and painted it and let it dry overnight. It's just not on camera because it was getting too late for me to film last night. I just didn't have enough light, and I wanted to get it painted so that it could be ready to be installed today. What I did with the paint is I used just regular black spray paint in the areas that you're not going to see. So like the sides, the inside of there, the back, and also the inside of the storage unit. Reason I did that was because I had an extra can of spray paint laying around. I didn't want it to go to waste. And the truck liner that you buy is actually a lot more expensive. So I didn't want to waste it on areas that you're not even going to see. But I did use that that Raptor liner spray on the top because it just gives it a really nice finish. I mean, if you can see, it has that nice texture to it. So I'm going to use that for the top of this, the top of the other cabinet when we build it, and probably the drawer front. So I'm going to use the Raptor liner just more sparingly. A couple of things that I did do, I went ahead and added an aluminum bar to the front. This just kind of protects the edge anytime I put the Pelican case in and out of this thing, because I don't want it to keep bumping this and start to fray the end of the plywood. You notice that I also didn't make this cover go all the way through. Reason why is because I realized that these sides started to kind of bow out a little bit, so I decided to add just a piece of plywood on top here to kind of hold this in place and make it more rigid so that it doesn't bow out on me. So now that gives it a lot better structural rigidity. On the inside, watch how nice this opens. What I did there is I used some of these hydraulic lifts, and you can buy these online on Amazon. I'll put the link below, but they're super cheap, easy to install, and it just helps you keep the cover up and brings it back down. You could get away with one, but what I realized that when I only had one of these, every time I closed the lid, it would kind of shift the lid off a little bit, and that's probably because of how it's mounted right there. But by having two, that kind of just keeps it like nice and straight when you pull it back down. See, perfect. And then what I'm going to do also is when it comes in later on today, I'm going to put a latch right here. The latch will just help keep this thing closed when I'm driving around. And then that latch also has a little nub, and that's what I will use to prop this thing open. Because as you can tell right now, there's no way for me to open this. I would have to get my fingers in there to pop it open. So that latch will give me something to hold on to and pull it up. So I'll install that, and then once that's installed, we'll put it into the Jeep and we'll be ready to go. All right, guys, that's it. That's the first half of the build complete, and I think it looks great. I was finally able to store all my tools in there, nice and snug, and I just love that I was able to get accurate enough that when you close the gate, like it literally only has this little bit of a gap before it touches it. So I didn't waste a single inch in fitting that in there. That's what she said. So now we just move on to the second half of the build, which is the drawer system. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. I know that can be a little bit more involved, especially I've never done drawers before, but I think I can figure it out. I'm going to have a drawer system, and then right underneath that, I plan to have a slide out cutting board. And on top of that, I also have a surprise that I haven't seen anyone do yet that I'm hoping will work. So I can't wait to show you that as well. So make sure to stay tuned as we continue this build. Until then, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and also don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Baptism Overland. My name is Asia Sampson, and I will see you next time.